Yeah, this is Ben and Jesse from Stellar Circuits, and we just put out a record called Sight to Sound.
Beautiful.
And
Thanks
we're
for joining
still
us today, guys.
Thank you, man.
No worries. So, as you mentioned, Stellar Circuits released your new album, Sight to Sell, only yesterday, Australian time. I'm not sure how far ago it was your time. But how's the early response been to it?
It's been good, man. It's been we don't really have expectations about it, so any love that we get, we appreciate, man. It's been nice.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about the album from a musical point of view and what you were going for with it.
Um, there wasn't really any goals in mind with the record. It's kind of just the natural progression of our sound. Um, it's just whatever we're feeling, we write it. And I feel like that just comes out. Uh, just just the natural progression of things and how they sound. And how about you? What do you say?
I lost track of the question, sorry.
So tell us about the album musically and what you were going for with it.
Yeah, like Jesse said, man, we weren't really going for anything per se. We try to write what we hear in our heads, man, and we do our best to put that out.
The press release refers to you upping the ante this time on the record. So what does it mean by that?
I think we were referring mostly to just the intention and how much we were willing to put into it. It's just kind of accumulated each time. I wouldn't necessarily say it took more time, but I don't know, man. We take the writing process kind of seriously and try to devote everything we can to it when we're in the middle of it, you know what I mean? And just treat it with the utmost importance.
We definitely reinvest into the band. I'd say maybe every time we release something, we put more into it, so maybe that's what they mean by
Yeah,
the
or that's
upping
what
the
we
ante,
said.
or
Yeah, I mean, definitely financially, like as it's grown, basically everything we've ever made, we just reinvest back into the band to try and create bigger and better experiences with our art. So
yeah, and obviously we want more people to hear it. So yeah.
So how would you say it actually differs musically from your debut album, Ways We Haunt?
yeah, for me, man, it's hard. Like I don't. I mean, I hear the differences, I guess, but I've heard people when we were first sharing the new songs with people that they said it was a departure a bit, and maybe in a good way, but I don't really hear that, man. I'm so like invested in what we do with my head down, and just seeing that gradual growth and change in sound. It's kind of hard to see it from the outsider's perspective sometimes for me. Yeah.
I would say instrumentally it has more of a raw grittiness to the album, I feel like, especially with the production. Ways We Haunt was very through and through, it was very like smooth and dynamic at times, but I do feel like Sight to Sound, we reached different points in the band. Like we have like heavier moments and we have more atmospheric moments than we did in Ways We Haunt. Ways We Haunt was very, yeah, like a through line vibe, which is interesting because we always approach it song to song. And then we step back and we can see this like through line of, it's not necessarily a theme or a conceptual album, but it almost comes across that way.
Yeah. And you've released the singles Witch House, Catch Your Death, and Pleasure Cruise. So just so if that's all someone's heard, is that a good sonic representation of the album as a whole?
I mean, we thought so for the most part, man. It's kind of hard to hopefully I feel like we're a bit of an eclectic band, so it can be hard to just find the songs that represent us. But a lot of that we left up to the people that we worked with over at MBE and stuff, and just whatever they felt like was the best representation, we sort of went that direction. We don't really think of our songs like that when we're writing them. It's just like each one is the most important, and some days you like ones more than others, but it's hard to, at least for me, again, it's hard from my perspective to step back and know which one might be most commercially viable.
I like what you did with the title for Catch Your Death too. It's a nice play on words.
Yeah, that's I thought it was something, man.
Very good. First thing that caught my mind. I almost wrote Catch Your Breath when I was writing it down. I had to check myself and make sure I got it right. Well done.
Yeah, there might have been a publication or two that said
Yeah,
our new single "Catch Your Breath" was just debuted, but we didn't tell them.
And the cover's really awesome as well, guys. Like it's pretty basic, just featuring a butterfly half sort of bathed in the red glow, but It's really effective. Like, what's that signifying?
The
moth, yeah.
moth.
Yeah, the moth, sorry, not butterfly.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, you're good.
Well, at like early stages of trying to create the art with Pedro, who also did our previous album, we were trying to find what was it? It was like
a
natural formation.
Yeah, and like abstractly a visual representation of sound, you know, which is kind of hard to pin down.
But yeah, we just landed on a moth. I can't really remember exactly how, but
Part of it I think was a symmetrical quality of it, you know, the organic nature of it. But yeah,
it's it just came about organically, man. It just
a lot of our stuff's like that, man. Like it just fits in the end, just like the album cover. A lot with the titles, with words, with the instruments and music. It's not a lot of it's contrived like that, but we just, you know, it's funny when we feel something clicks, we step back, and just like the cover, it seems to work, man. We don't know exactly why, but it felt right. And as we move forward with it, it just felt more and more right. So it was cool to follow that.
I think the most striking part of it is the fact that you've only sort of half washed it in red. Like, it just gives that evil tinge to it, but a moth's not an evil animal, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think we've always had a tendency to kind of lean towards darker aesthetics and music, man. And although we like to balance it, you always got to have a little bit of a sinister undertone. You know what I mean?
Very cool. Now, I'm sure there's people over here in Australia that haven't heard of you guys yet, but they fucking should, because you guys are awesome. But we'll get a bit of history first, man. Like, you guys started back in 2015. So what was the musical climate like that gave birth to the band, and where did you fit in?
You know, I think like anybody, we're a product of what we grew up listening to, and me and Jesse grew up together, so a lot of that we share, man. I know around the time that the band started, it was only a couple years after we had started playing music, and I was in a blues band and started another band at the time, and was off on a tangent of really just getting back to my roots and getting obsessed with like Incubus and Tool and Deftones. And then, you know, Jesse has mentioned this before, but then Carnival was introduced into our lives, and a lot of Australian music like Dead Letter Circus and shit like that. So that was all around the time that we started the band, and really, I think, set a tone for where we would end up going. And then, you know, growing and getting turned on to different kinds of music like Animals as Leaders and some more futuristic sounding stuff, all the while having a love for older music like 70s progressive rock and stuff like that. I think has really, you know, shaped where we're at now. I like to think of us as sort of a fusion between pushing futuristic or contemporary sounds and, you know, older, like more archaic sounds as well.
The press release says of those early days that Stellar Circuits emerged to combine the conceptual polarities of groove-orientated music with progressive-minded technicality. Like, that sounds great, but can you break that down for us? Like,
we definitely like, we love groove. We like,
yeah, as far as like metal, like we love groove metal, right?
Yeah,
like Rage Against the Machine, Audio Slave, shit like that.
And I feel like it has a lot to do, again, like how we write, how things are laid out. Like Tyler and I will do like rhythm stuff first, and then the guitars will come in, and I feel like that has a lot to do with like really trying to drive in like a groove. Like we're really focused on groove. And, you know, I wouldn't say we're like super progressive savants, you know what I mean? It's just maybe Jared is, or
Tyler, yeah, our guitar player went to Berkeley, so he's a lot more technically savvy than us, you know.
We just play what we like to hear, man. And yeah,
we like to hear interesting song structures too, man. You know what I mean? We don't really like listening to music that's too cerebral, or at least for me. But it's just nice to keep it interesting, man. And that's kind of like the line that we're always trying to dance, is like, how can we make something that's cool that you haven't heard before, that kind of keeps you guessing, but at the same time, something that's familiar, you know what I mean? That's palatable.
Yeah. It's actually the perfect segue to my next question. I couldn't have written it better, but basically your sound is layered and complex, but I know a lot of bands that sort of got that sound. I find it hard to keep up with them musically. So how do you guys make music like that is accessible to the average person?
How do we make?
I mean, we can only hope, man. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. Like we hope that it is accessible, you know, and we hope that it's a representation of the things that we like, you know, and what's in our head. I mean, what do you think? How,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah, it's hard to say, man, like what the formula is. It's just like we hold in high regard bands that were always very interesting, and that were also palatable to a lot of people, like, you know, bands like Rush or bands like or Jimi Hendrix, you know what I mean? Or, you know, anything like that wasn't just like a rinse and repeat style song structure thing. I think a lot of 70s rock, I think, is a great foundation for shit like that. And you can just kind of see the waves of inspiration within music as we went to the 80s and then 90s. We had that resurgence, and you know, me and Jesse are a product of that, man, being born in like 89 and 88. So that's when we grew up, and the type of stuff that you heard in the 90s was like Soundgarden, dude, like Nirvana, like Rage Against the Machine, Tool, like these bands are all time, man, and they know how, or at least in our opinion, they knew how, or even if they didn't know, that's what they did. They combined this like really special, interesting, pushing the boundary thing. But all the while, you know, I just saw Tool in Florida a few weeks ago. Like you got 10,000 people singing along to the song. You know what I mean? So there's that like coupling of those two things, that it's simple, yet it, you know, pushes your mind a little bit.
The album Sight to Sound did come out yesterday, guys. So what's next for Stellar Circuits? You got much touring and stuff planned to go around it?
Yeah, we have some tours lined up. One for sure that you guys should hear about pretty soon, within a week or so. And yeah, some other stuff in the works. Hopefully it works out.
Yeah, as much as
That's
we
our plan.
can
That's
for the
our
rest of
plan.
the year.
Yeah, that's our plan, is just to keep touring on this album cycle as long as we can. So,
And we've got another album in the works as we do that. So the goal now is to continue just touring and putting out records, man.
Also, when you say it's one we should hear about the next week, does that mean that it might include Australia or?
I'm not sure at the moment because we've been actually trying to line up some international dates, man. It's a little up in the air right now, so we can't say. But dude, Australia,
I won't push.
we're trying to get there as soon as we can, man. I think we mentioned this. We're huge fans of Australian music and just the country in general, dude. So we can't wait to get there.
Beautiful. All right, Ben and Jesse. Well, thanks very much for your time. Sight to Sound is out now, and it's an absolute cracker of an album, guys. Like I say, I normally can't keep up with music that's sort of that complex, but you guys managed to nail it. So well done.
thank you, man.
Right on, man. Well, hopefully that wasn't a passive way of calling it dumb.
Appreciate
I'm just kidding you.
I'd say what I mean, mate. If I thought it was dumb, I'd say dumb and saying I'm dumb.
I'm just fucking with you.
All right, boys. Well, take care of yourselves, and hopefully we see you out here soon.
Cheers, man.